My name is Hilary Duff, and I'm the freelance case study writer with the Planetary Health Alliance. So I'm personally a little bit biased, but in my mind I've had the coolest job because I've gotten to travel to different parts of the world and talk about the important work and research that's being done by many of the people here in this room. Oh, and there's my actual introductory slide. So a little bit of a background on this project. 2 years ago, the Planetary Health Alliance membership came together and identified the need for case studies. So identified this need for planetary health case studies that could identify the real-life solutions that do exist out there. And the purpose of these is to be used in undergraduate and graduate classrooms as a way to help students understand the complex layers and the nuances of planetary health. So the idea is really that there is truly interdisciplinary research and solutions that are out there, and that as a community, we really need to be prioritizing sharing these solutions as a way to inspire future generations of planetary health practitioners. Another goal of these case studies as well is to kind of pick students up out of their chair and transport them into the realities of people living in different parts of the world. So it's this recognition that humility and empathy and understanding are all going to be key skills that we really need if we're going to go ahead and address the challenges that the world is facing. And so the photos you see up here are just a few of the faces of the people whose stories are shared as part of these case studies. All right, so a couple of more details about the project. So 10 case studies have been created in total, and each one focuses on a different geographic context, and then a combination of environmental drivers, and then in turn their human health impacts, and vice versa. And so there were so many lessons and themes that emerged over the course of this last year, but I just wanted to take the next couple of minutes to share a couple of those themes, as well as the human stories that really illustrate these broader ideas. So the first person that I wanted to introduce you to is Pak Iskander, who you can see up here on the left. Now, Iskander had illegally logged the rainforest around his home in Borneo for 18 years. And I think as an outsider, it would be really easy to hear this story and say, this man does not care about the environment. But you sit down with Iskander and he shares about how this is dangerous work. It's difficult work that takes him away from his family for many, many weeks at a time. And the reason why he does it is to pay for the basic needs and healthcare of his family, who you see here in this photo. And so this was really a theme that emerged again and again over the course of the year, was that it's not that people don't intrinsically understand the value of their natural environment, but it's that people are more acutely aware of the immediate needs of their family. And so a goal of the case studies is to really help students identify some of the root causes of people's actions so that they can create solutions that are really mindful of that. And this particular project focuses on the work of two organizations in this room, Health and Harmony and Alem Sahat Lastari. I believe they're sitting over there. And so I would encourage you to speak with them later to find out more about their planetary health solution in action. The next person I wanted to introduce you to is Gertrude, who's the mother of two young girls. She lives in Busi Island and Lake Victoria in Uganda. And something that Gertrude and the other young mothers who I was speaking to were telling me about was the social stigma that exists around them as young mothers, but also that women don't always have the geographic and the economic and the cultural access they need to be able to exercise their sexual and reproductive health rights. And really, I think this is just one example of the many gender disparities that exist around the world. And something that's positive about these case studies, I think, is that they focus on organizations that are really tackling these disparities head on. So they're creating programs that don't just focus on the male heads of household, but work with couples, or they're creating targeted opportunities for women to pursue skills training or other sorts of livelihood opportunities. And so this to me really highlights an exciting opportunity that we have in planetary health, which is this idea that we can focus on the intersection of health and the environment, but we can also use planetary health solutions as a way to overcorrect for some of the vulnerabilities that exist for women worldwide, but then also other groups around the world who haven't traditionally held a place of power. And the project focused in this case study is a population health environment approach that is being led by Pathfinder International. And again, I know there's people from those teams represented here in this room, so I would encourage you to seek them out and learn more about that project later. And the final story I wanted to share is that of Apanui Skipper, who's a Maori environmental researcher in New Zealand. So on the day that Apanui and I met, we were sitting outside on the patio, and he was surveying the landscape around us, and he was able to share so many stories that have been passed down to him from his family and from his ancestors. And this is really what he does as part of his research, is he documents the environmental indicators and this deep body of knowledge that people have developed from spending centuries on their land. And a couple of things to that, which is that this grounding of place really informs and governs the relationship that Maori communities have with their natural environment. And it also talks about how losing that sense of place can have really deep reverberations when it comes to people's spiritual health and their mental and emotional health, as we heard on one of the panels this morning. And so this case study in particular looks at all that we have to learn from Maori and Indigenous worldviews and values, and the progress that's been made in the New Zealand context of incorporating some of those values into healthcare policy and also into natural resource management. So what's next for this anthology? Amalia mentioned we're looking to publish these 10 case studies in the next couple of months. Again, a goal is to make them as accessible as possible for people. So we're looking at this idea that these solutions and these stories of people are really too important not to share at this point in time. So I hope everyone in this room will check those out once they're published. And I also have a poster up at the building next door, so would love to spend more than 5 minutes talking about the project then. Thank you very much.